A woman once set a Victorian silver brooch on my counter, and I knew what had happened to it before she said a single word. The detail was gone. The dark lines that lived down in the crevices, the ones that made the whole pattern readable, had been scrubbed out, and what was left looked like a cheap copy of itself. She had not dropped it. She had cleaned it. And she had no idea she had just taken most of its value off with the tarnish. That conversation happened more times than I can count, because here is what 20 years behind a jewelry counter teaches you. Almost nobody destroys jewelry by neglecting it. They destroy it on a Saturday morning at a bright kitchen sink with the best intentions in the world. So I never went looking for these 5 hacks. They came to me, one ruined piece at a time, for 2 decades, and I got to see what each one leaves behind after the shine wears off. 3 of them destroy what they touch. 1 I used myself, under a single condition. And the one that wins is what we kept in the back room the whole time, and it costs you nothing. Hack number 1, toothpaste. I lost count of the white gold rings. A woman would come in worried that her ring was going yellow in patches, convinced the jeweler had sold her fake gold, and I would turn it under the light and ask one question. Have you been cleaning this with toothpaste? The answer was almost always yes. Here's what I had to explain, over and over. Toothpaste is not a cleaner. It is an abrasive. It is built around hydrated silica and chalk, and those abrasives are harder than the metal you are rubbing them on. Gold sits at about 2.5 to 3 on the hardness scale. Silver, about 2.7. The toothpaste sits above both of them, so it is not lifting tarnish off the surface. It is sanding the surface down and taking the tarnish with it. On white gold, that is a death sentence, because white gold is almost always plated with rhodium. That thin, bright coating I told you about in my video on jewelry quality, and toothpaste takes it straight off. The yellow that shows through is not fake gold. It is the real gold underneath, exactly where the customer polished hardest. On anything gold-plated, it goes through the plating to the base metal, and there is no coming back from that. Under a loupe, you can always tell. A polished piece has a mirror surface. A toothpaste piece has a fine web of scratches and looks tired and slightly gray, in a way people mistake for age. And it gets worse on its own, because a scratched surface grabs dirt and tarnishes faster than a smooth one, which sends people back to the tube. But the damage I hated most was the one nobody noticed. Hallmarks are shallow. Polish a piece often enough, and you wear the stamp on the back into an unreadable smudge. I have spent this entire channel telling you to turn a piece over and read the back, because that stamp is the proof of the metal and the maker. Toothpaste erases the evidence that your piece is worth anything. Hack number 2, denture tablets and a glass of water. Every version of this conversation started the same way. A woman would come in holding a ring with an empty setting, and the first thing she always said was, "It was fine yesterday." And that is exactly the problem, because nothing about it looks dangerous. A fizzing tablet, warm water, walk away, come back to a sparkling ring. No scrubbing, no abrasive, a box costs a few dollars. And if you are under 60, you have probably never touched a denture tablet in your life, which is why it spreads. It feels like somebody's clever grandmother's secret. The stone is never what gets hurt. Your diamond does not care. What gets hurt is the metal holding your diamond, because the chemicals in those tablets attack the alloy in the setting. Now, prongs wear down on their own anyway, from years of catching on clothing and knocking against door frames, and that part is normal. The problem is that this speeds it up quietly, and a weakened prong gives you no warning at all. It does not bend. It does not look wrong. It simply lets go one afternoon between the parking lot and the grocery store, and the stone is gone. That is not my theory. It is why the Gemological Institute of America tells people not to do it, and why I stopped a lot of customers mid-sentence when they described their cleaning routine. On silver, it is less subtle. I have seen a sterling designer necklace come out of an overnight soak black in every crevice, and the owner described it perfectly. Like it had been sitting on the bottom of the sea for 100 years, and nothing rescues it afterward, because a cloth reaches flat surfaces and never the inside of links, so the piece ends up worse than it went in. And there is one specific piece this hack absolutely murders, and hardly anyone knows it. Handmade Navajo and Zuni silver, the turquoise work I told you to hunt for at yard sales, very often has the stones packed in from behind with thin cardboard or sawdust to cushion them. Soak that in anything at all and the backing swells and the stones lift right out of their bezels. One overnight soak undoes 80 years of holding together. While we are here, everything in your kitchen that is acidic belongs in the same grave. Ketchup, vinegar, cola, lemon juice. They do remove tarnish. Acid eats it. The trouble is that acid has no idea where the tarnish ends and your piece begins, so it corrodes the metal unevenly, stains it, leaves sugar sitting down in the settings for grime to stick to, softens the glue holding stones into costume pieces, and permanently etches anything porous. Pearl, opal, turquoise, coral, emerald. Same logic as the tablet, same ending. Now, If you have already glanced over at your own jewelry box while listening to this, you are exactly who I make these videos for, so hit subscribe. Because the next hack is the one that genuinely works, and that is precisely why it is the most costly mistake on this list. Hack number 3, baking soda and aluminum foil. And this is the one that brought me that Victorian brooch. Let me be fair to it first, because this is real chemistry and not folklore. You line a dish with foil, lay the silver on it, pour over hot water and baking soda, and the black lifts away in front of your eyes in about 30 seconds. What is happening is an actual reaction. Tarnish is sulfur bonded to silver. The aluminum pulls the sulfur off, and unlike polishing, it does not scrape any silver away. On a plain modern chain or everyday flatware, honestly, it is fine, and I am not going to pretend otherwise. Here is the part nobody warns you about. That reaction cannot tell the difference between tarnish you hate and darkness the maker put there on purpose. Pick up any good antique silver piece and look at why you can see the pattern at all. The recesses are dark, the raised surfaces are bright, and that contrast is what gives the design depth. Silversmiths darkened those low areas deliberately, so the engraving would read as shape instead of a flat sheet of metal. Drop that piece in a foil bath, and every bit of that intentional darkness lifts out with the tarnish. All of it, in under a minute. What comes out is uniformly bright, harshly white, and completely flat, and the pattern is technically still there while your eye can no longer find it. That was the brooch on my counter. 2 seconds to see it, and then I had to find a gentle way to tell her that the piece she had just made beautiful was worth a fraction of what it had been that morning. The second victim is even less forgiving. If a piece is silver-plated rather than solid, that same reaction goes after the thin silver layer and can pull it through to the copper underneath. Once base metal shows, the only fix is professional replating, which routinely costs more than the piece is worth. And the hot water in that dish is separately busy loosening glued stones and stressing enamel. Now let me square this with something I told you before, because I have said on this channel that black tarnish is a good sign at a yard sale, proof the metal is real silver rather than plate, and that it polishes off in 5 minutes. That is still true. Both things live together in one line. On modern silver, clean freely. On old silver, the darkness in the details is not dirt. It is the age. And on antique pieces, the age is the value. Hack number 4, glass cleaner. This is the one I actually used, and I want to be honest about that. We kept a bottle behind the counter, and when someone came in convinced their diamond had gone dead, most of the time nothing was wrong with the diamond. There was a film of hand lotion and skin oil sitting underneath the stone, right where the light is supposed to bounce back up, and the ammonia in glass cleaner cuts through oil beautifully. A minute later, the ring looked like it did in the store, and the customer thought I was a magician. But there was a rule we followed, and it is the whole reason this hack belongs in the survivor column instead of the graveyard. Ammonia is safe on exactly 2 categories: solid gold or platinum, and hard stones like diamond, sapphire, and ruby. Nothing else. It damages pearl, opal, emerald, turquoise, and every organic and porous material in your box. On white gold, it strips the rhodium faster, same story as the toothpaste. On plated jewelry, it accelerates the wear. And when we used it, it was a short dip, a soft brush, and an immediate rinse, never a soak. So it works, and it works on maybe 2 of the 10 things in a typical jewelry box, and the bottle under your sink says nothing whatsoever about which 2. Hack number 5, warm water, 1 drop of mild dish soap, and a soft brush. This is the winner, and it was in the back room of every store I ever worked in. I know how anticlimactic that sounds after 4 hacks of chemistry and drama. But this is what professionals actually use. It is what the Gemological Institute of America still recommends for most gems. And it is what I told every customer who asked. The technique matters more than the ingredients. Water warm, never hot, because heat crazes opals and loosens glued settings. 1 or 2 drops of soap and no more, because extra soap dries into a film that dulls the stone right back down, and then people assume the method failed. Soak 10 to 15 minutes. Then a very soft brush, a baby toothbrush is perfect, and work behind the stone and underneath the setting, because that is where the film actually lives. Everyone scrubs the top of the stone, which is the one part that was already clean. Rinse far longer than feels necessary, and pat dry with a soft cloth. Now, there is one thing soap will not do, and this is exactly where people get sent back to the internet. Soap and water lift oil and grime. They do not touch tarnish, because tarnish is not dirt sitting on top of your silver. It is sulfur that has chemically bonded to the surface. So if your silver has gone dark and the piece is modern, the answer is a treated polishing cloth. A few dollars, mildly treated, and it works by contact instead of chemistry. So it takes the tarnish off without dissolving a layer of your silver to get at it. Work gently, in straight lines rather than circles, and stop the moment the shine comes back. And the better answer is the one almost nobody bothers with. Silver goes dark because of air and sulfur, not because it is dirty, which means the real fix is storage, not cleaning. Keep it in a closed bag or a lined box when you are not wearing it, and it will barely tarnish at all. The piece you never have to clean is the piece that never gets damaged, and that single habit will save you more value than every hack in this video combined. And a word about the machine people buy when the hacks fail them. Ultrasonic cleaners are not a safe upgrade. They are a faster way to the same disasters. No organic material goes in one, so no pearl, coral, or amber. Nothing with a surface coating. And nothing heat sensitive, which is a longer list than people expect. Tanzanite, moonstone, kunzite, lapis, malachite, opal, topaz, turquoise, zircon. The vibration alone will shake a loose stone out of a setting. And if you own an emerald, know this before you ever consider one. Roughly 95% of natural emeralds are treated with oil or resin to fill their internal fractures. An ultrasonic bath drives that treatment out, and the fractures it was hiding come back into view for good. Which brings me to the short list of things I told people never to clean at home at all. Pearls, because water and acid attack the surface and rot the silk thread they are strung on. Opals, which hold water inside them and can craze into a web of fine cracks. Emeralds, for the reason I just gave. Turquoise, amber, coral, and jet. All porous, all willing to drink whatever you put them in. Antique enamel. Anything glued. And one more, which is my favorite piece of knowledge in this entire video, and the thing I most often had to explain too late. Pick up an old ring or brooch and look at the back of the stone. If metal covers it completely, so you cannot see daylight through the underside of the gem, that is a closed back setting. It was standard practice on antique jewelry, and it is still common on vintage crystal and paste pieces. And inside that little sealed cup, behind the stone, there is very often a piece of metal foil, put there on purpose to bounce light back up through the gem and make it blaze. Put that piece under a running tap even once, and water seeps in behind the stone where it can never dry, and it tarnishes and flakes that foil. The stone goes dark and lifeless, and it stays that way. Fixing it means removing the stone entirely and refoiling it with a torch, and it never quite looks the way it did. I watched one rinse under a kitchen faucet end, a 200-year-old piece. Closed back means a dry cloth. No water. Ever. So here's what 2 decades of this taught me in 2 rules. Rule 1, clean the dirt. Never clean the age. Lotion, skin oil, and grime are dirt, and they should come off. Patina in the recesses, intentional darkening, an old surface, and a hallmark are not dirt. They are the value, and every one of them can be scrubbed away in under a minute by someone who loves the piece. Rule 2, and this is the one that costs families the most. Appraise first. Clean second. Never the other way around. I said in my video on broken jewelry that the wrong repair destroys more value than any garbage can. Cleaning is the same crime with better intentions, because it happens in a bright kitchen, to something somebody inherited. Now the honest part, because this channel does not sell panic. If you own a modern gold chain, a steel bracelet, or a plain sterling ring from this decade, clean it. It needs it. And none of this applies to you. Everything I just described matters for pieces that are old, plated, porous, signed, or inherited. And if you cannot tell which of those you are holding, that is the moment to stop and ask. Because any decent independent jeweler will look at it and clean it properly, usually for nothing, the way I did for 20 years. One last thing, and it is really the reason I made this video. There is a 6th method going around right now, and I left it out of the 5 because it is not a hack, it is a product. The bottled liquid that makes tarnish vanish the second it touches silver. It does exactly what it promises, and that is the tell. Silversmiths who restore antique silver for a living will tell you that etching of the surface begins within about 5 seconds of contact, and the formula behind most of them is built on thiora, pronounced thigh, ou, re, and acids. It does not lift tarnish off your silver. It dissolves a layer of your silver to get at it, leaves the surface microscopically rough so it tarnishes faster forever afterward, and on an antique piece, it takes the patina and the crispness of every detail with it. When a bottle removes 40 years of tarnish in 5 seconds, ask what else it removed in those same 5 seconds. This channel takes no sponsorships and no paid placements. No cleaning brand, no jeweler, nobody pays to be praised or buried here. And that independence is the only reason I can tell you that the best product in this entire category is a bottle of dish soap. If straight answers like this are why you come back, the join button below makes you a member and keeps these breakdowns honest. Now tell me in the comments which of these you have tried and what happened. Be honest, because somebody reading is about to make the same mistake, and your story is what stops them. I read every single one. I'll see you in the next one.